Hey, what's up? This is Flex Wheeler and my ride or die homie, my dog, for real, Achilles. Anyway, I wanted to talk to you guys about my pre-workout, the foreplay. Listen, I guarantee you I will match this up against anyone else's pre-workout.
What's up guys, Derek, moreplace180.com. Today we're going to be digging into Flex Wheeler's pre-workout. He made a pretty bold claim on his Instagram the other day talking about how it is the best pre-workout in the industry. And he made the challenge to anybody to stack it up against anything else and, basically see how much superior his is to theirs.
Hey, what's up? This is Flex Wheeler and my ride or die homie, my dog, for real, Achilles. Anyway, I wanted to talk to you guys about my pre-workout, the foreplay. Listen, I guarantee you I will match this up against anyone else's pre-workout. I had it specifically formulated where you only have to use 4 ounces of water. That way you don't get that gut bomb or whatever before you go and work out. You have a lot of fluids on your stomach and everything like that. Has Kre-Alkalyn in it. It is strong. It is strong. I recommend you try a half a scoop first. I normally take it about 15 minutes before I take off to the gym. So on a ride to the gym, I started to feel that Beta-alanine kicking in and everything, man. It is banging. The flavor is outrageous. I guarantee you, try my product, try my foreplay. You will not be disappointed. You will.
So anyways, expectedly, a lot of people tag me in it. They want me to kind of, scientifically dismantle it and see if it's good, if it, holds up to the claims, and give my opinion overall on if it's, solid or not. So here we are on the All-American Sups Superstore website, which is, has a bunch of different brands, apparently. It has One Mission, it has All-American something, EFX, Flex Wheeler, Innoform, Natural Freak. So Flex Wheeler Natural Series is the, where the pre-workout in question is. We have the Flexinerator, which presumably is a fat burner. He has Foreplay pre-workout, which is what we're gonna be digging into, and he has Flex T. All of his products are pharmaceutical grade and made in the USA, utilizing trademarked and patented ingredients like Taxidrol, never heard of it, Sustalan, Kre-Alkalyn, and Lyzyme 5 to formulate the most potent supplements on the market. Increase energy, build lean muscle, and burn off body fat. Check out our other brands in the Superstore by clicking here. All right, so let's get into the pre-workout here. So Foreplay, the bold claim has been made. This is the best pre-workout in the industry. It is pharma grade, Flex Wheeler approved, enhances athletic performance, builds muscle, gains strength, made in the USA. Flavors, we have strawberry. That's the only flavor apparently. Let's see, sup facts. All right, gain muscle, strength, go beast mode by lifting more weight in reps without the jitters, stomach issues, or post-workout pains. Use it for a noticeable improvement in strength, size, and performance when foreplay is taken regularly with a consistent diet and workouts. Formulated with fat-burning ingredients such as caffeine to help you work out harder and support your body's ability to burn fat by increasing the metabolism rate. Achieve your desired physique and fitness goals even faster. Ingredients that works. Flex Wheeler knows what works. That's why Foreplay pre-workout has Kre-Alkalyn, the only creatine monohydrate on the market buffered to pH 12, and Sustalan, our L-glutamine, L-alanine matrix that fuels up your energy. By the way, I'm not laughing at, Flex Wheeler knows what works. I'm just laughing at the fucking creatine claims. Our L-glutamine, L-alanine matrix that fuels up your energy for maximum performance. If you like to spend time in the gym pushing as hard as you can, and you need a little boost, then Foreplay pre-workout has to be your first choice. Banned substance free. Our certified products are safe and effective. They are free from any harmful substances that may affect your fitness journey or lifestyle in the long run. So no DMAA in this shit, no DMHA. Get some clean ass pre here. All right, so we have 8 grams per scoop, 30 servings per container. So keep this in mind when you're comparing and contrasting it to other pre-workouts on the market that, are split into 40 servings and 20 servings for 2 scoops. For example, gorilla mode, the full dose is 2 scoops. But again, proportionally, if you have 30 servings, obviously you have to allocate for the lesser doses per scoop with the fact that there is more servings per full formula. The burden of ingredients needs to be proportionally kind of calculated to get the actual representation of what's going on. You can't look at something and be like, oh, it's underdosed, when you're comparing what is ultimately a 30 serving pre versus like a 20 serving pre or something like that. So anyways, just be aware of that off the bat. Let's find a better, this is the size of it apparently, because I guess that's useful to know. Fuck, this is how big it is in my hand. This is how big it's gonna be in my gym bag, whatever. Okay, so I think we've already dug into all the claims enough. So let's get into the sup facts here. Probably gonna read it off here because it's easier than zooming in on this shit. All right, so 1 scoop, 30 servings. Calcium and sodium are these going to be even worthwhile mentioning? Not really, so let's get into the actives here that matter. Heftiest ingredient in the formula, L-arginine AKG. This is the basis of the nitric oxide precursors for vasodilation. Is this a efficacious dose of this ingredient? If you watch my channel long enough, you probably know at this point L-arginine is not an optimal precursor for nitric oxide and enhancing arginine levels. Paradoxically, L-arginine is like the worst way to enhance arginine levels in the body, which kind of, on paper makes no fucking sense, but that's how your body metabolizes this shit. But ultimately, there has been different variations of L-arginine put out: inositol stabilized arginine silicate, L-arginine AKG. Things of this nature are designed to kind of prevent that degradation process that makes L-arginine on its own via oral ingestion essentially useless. So L-arginine AKG, is that a useful ingredient? It's not my ideal NO precursor, especially as the foundational component and frankly the only NO precursor in your entire formula. Does it mean it doesn't work at all? No, but it's not exactly the ideal choice in my opinion. If you go down into some of the literature, you can find stuff like this pretty quickly. Effects of 7 days of arginine alpha ketoglutarate, supplementation on blood flow, plasma L-arginine, nitric oxide metabolites, and asymmetric dimethyl arginine after resistance exercise. Conclusions, NO2, basically they used 12 grams per day of either placebo or this NO2 platinum, which is based around arginine AKG as the primary NO precursor. And you find that NO2 platinum increased plasma L-arginine levels. However, the effects observed in hemodynamics, brachial artery blood flow, and NOx can only be attributed to the resistance exercise. So as you find here, 24 physically active men underwent 7 days of arginine AKG supplementation with 12 grams per day of either NO2 platinum or placebo. Before and after supplementation, resistance exercise session involving the elbow flexors were performed, involving 3 sets of 15 repetitions with 70 to 75% of a 1 rep max. Data is collected immediately before, after, and 30 minutes after this exercise. Let's see, heart rate, blood pressure, blood flow increased in both groups, but not different between groups. So we have the placebo group and the NO2 platinum group getting the same enhancement of both of these things, which ultimately seems to be attributed to the resistance exercise rather than the arginine AKG. So you can see where, it's pretty damning in terms of the efficacy of the actual ingredient. It's not necessarily the best NO precursor that we can find. Does it work? There is suggested efficacy in some of the data. As far as the dosage recommended, it's somewhere in the ballpark of 2 to 3 grams per day seems to be, considered efficacious by those who actually warrant this to be a viable, NO precursor. And ultimately, is he hitting that mark? 2 grams in a serving, if this was going to work, this is half decent. Is it the optimal dosage? Is it the maxed out dosage? Not necessarily, upwards of 2 to 3.5 grams, multiple times per day have been shown to be suggested to be useful. Apparently up to 20 grams per day of L-arginine is considered safe and non-toxic. Again, though, this is arginine AKG, not just plain L-arginine. Is this, again, the optimal dosage, the maxed out dosage? Not necessarily. Ultimately, this one's going to be a bit more anecdotal, and L-arginine AKG, to be honest, when it stands up to the scrutiny of other NO precursors in the industry, does not seem to be the ideal choice. Although it is easier to fit into a smaller serving size. If you're going to go with capsules, if you're going to go with something that is very, confined, then maybe you would opt for something like this. However, is it ideal in a powdered supplement that is going to be, the driving force of your vasodilation? Not in my opinion. I do not like this ingredient as much as other alternatives. The dosage, though, arguably, decent enough to be justifiable if this was a reasonable ingredient to begin with. Kre-Alkalyn, buffered creatine monohydrate, patented at 1,000 milligrams. Now again, everyone's quite aware of the 3,000 milligram creatine monohydrate dose. Again, this should be scaled according to body weight. Why the fuck a 110-pound chick would get the exact same creatine monohydrate saturation requirements as a fucking 250-year-old bodybuilder makes absolutely no sense to me, but somehow this is the information that's been parroted throughout the fitness industry. Again, I would be shooting for 5 grams if you're a male who is of reasonable stature, and 1,000 milligrams of buffered creatine monohydrate. Like, just to use a more expensive buffered version of creatine monohydrate to justify putting in 1,000 milligrams when you could otherwise get away with, you know, straight creatine mono at a 5-gram dose to be maximally efficacious for the majority of individuals to potentially lessen the burden on digestive system. Is this something that is going to be worth it? Like, when you actually dig into the data, you find a buffered form of creatine does not promote greater changes in muscle protein, muscle creatine content, body composition, or training adaptations than creatine mono. You find here, neither manufacturer's recommended doses of Kre-Alkalyn or Kre-Alkalyn with equivalent loading and maintenance doses of creatine monohydrate promoted greater changes in muscle creatine content, body composition, strength, or anaerobic capacity than creatine monohydrate. There was no evidence that supplementing the diet with a buffered form of creatine is a more efficacious and or safer form of creatine to consume than creatine monohydrate. So again, if this is more tolerable on your digestive system, you know, is it worthwhile to substitute? Maybe. However, you're only getting 1,000 milligrams. Is this something that is going to be reaching your diet, your basic requirements, let alone for performance enhancement from a creatine monohydrate context? No, it's not. So despite the fact that this, you know, is all hyped up and it has, you know, interesting data to suggest, you know, it's buffered, it's more tolerable, blah, 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 the clinical research does not seem to really reinforce that using a lower dose is somehow going to be superior than your straight, cheap 5 grams of creatine mono. Hopefully you can tolerate creatine mono. If you can't at 5 grams with straight shit, then maybe start looking into alternatives. But again, you have to proportionally adjust your dosage. You can't just take 1,000 milligrams and expect to get these same performance enhancing effects from a special form of buffered creatine mono. You're still going to have to equate things based on proportional dosage amounts. So again, this is sub-efficacious, even if it's more tolerable on your digestive system. Maybe it's also because it's 1/5 of the fucking efficacious dose. I don't know. Beta-alanine, 1,000 milligrams. This is, you know, the primary carnosine derivative that you would otherwise use as a precursor to drive increases in endurance in the gym. Is it a performance enhancing ingredient? Yes. However, to achieve a saturation dose that is going to be actually quite useful, you're going to be looking at 3.2 to 6.4 grams per day, like pretty fucking chronically, like, you know, a couple months before you actually saturate this shit to a point that's going to be super useful. You know, maybe if you're getting away with, you know, 3.2 to 6.4 grams, you know, intermittently throughout the week on an every other day basis when you use your pre-workout, because again, how many people are going to use pre-workout every single day to kind of saturate themselves, or they're going to be supplementing beta-alanine separately to kind of cumulatively get that actual performance enhancing burden? It's kind of up for interpretation if you want to be using your pre-workout every single day, even when you're not in the fucking gym, especially when it has stimulants in it. You know, probably not ideal to be doing, in which case you'd be better off, you know, supplementing with it separately on top or separately in a non-stimulant ridden formula as well. 1,000 milligrams, is that going to be adequate? Frankly, no, that is sub-efficacious. Is this a useful ingredient for performance? Yeah, it can be fucking useful. However, the actual burden on your system you need to cumulatively build up to get those effects are going to significantly exceed 1,000 milligrams in an acute exposure. It's going to be closer to a 3,200 to 6,400 milligram intake. And ideally, that's going to be sustainably ingested for multiple weeks on end before you actually get to an amount that is going to be very, very useful and kind of justify the ridiculous paresthesia and butthole itches, in my opinion. Now, getting into Sustilant, L-glutamine, L-alanine matrix at 500 milligrams. Now, L-glutamine, commonly known for its gut health promoting properties. Is this mixture something that, to be honest, I'm not overly familiar with this ingredient. Purportedly, it's used for hyperhydration. Is this something that has a lot of clinical data reinforcing its efficacy relative to something like a glycerol, which is, you know, tried and true and is used by endurance athletes all over the fucking place? Personally, I don't think this is, you know, I would speculate it's not useful at this dosage burden, given the fact that it's just a fucking combination of L-glutamine and L-alanine. Again, I can't actually prove that necessarily, but for me personally, just at a bird's eye view, this does not look to be a promising hyperhydrating agent when we have tried and true things like osmolytes, like betaine anhydrous, when we have hyperhydrating agents like glycerol that are, you know, very proven in endurance sports. Shit like that, I would feel is a more efficacious alternative potentially. However, it's definitely worth further exploration if this actually lives up to the hype. You know, it could be an interesting thing to delve into. Moving on to L-Tyrosine at 0.5 gram. This is something that is a neurotransmitter precursor, can help with mood elevation, you know, sense of well-being, can help you get in a better zone, you know, feel better in the gym, be a bit more motivated and whatnot. It's, I like it personally. I find the dosage that needs to be used to be a bit closer to a gram to really get a strong effect from it. Is it efficacious at 500 milligrams? That's like the bare minimum acute exposure amount that would be used pre-exercise to get a decent effect. So ultimately this is qualified as, you know, an efficacious dose. Is it, you know, maximal? No. Is it, you know, the topped out amount? No. However, it is, you know, potentially additive to the formula and cumulatively may aid in the overall, you know, cognitive effects you get from it. Caffeine and theobromine, this is the driving force of the neurological component of this product. Obviously, this is, I don't need to explain to you guys what fucking caffeine is. 350 milligrams, a pretty decent dose. This is gonna get you going. Definitely gonna keep you more awake and zoned in. Theobromine as an additive on top seems to be a reasonable addition to caffeine, working through a slightly different vector and mechanism of action. Not too stimulating as opposed to caffeine. Does not seem to push people over the edge too aggressively, where you're going to feel like overstimulated and jittery as fuck. Is it, you know, my favorite, you know, exotic stim? No, there are definitely other ones that I think, you know, push the envelope a bit if you're trying to add a more, you know, aggressive thing on top of your caffeine. You could otherwise, you know, just modulate your caffeine accordingly if you're going to be looking for just the kind of base level stimulatory actions you want to get out of this. But again, some people find an additive effect on top of this with a slightly different, you know, like locked in feeling, mood elevation, etc., that you can get from theobromine. I'm not saying it's a bad ingredient, but ultimately this is going to be preference in terms of what kind of stimulant type feeling are you looking for? Are you looking more for a laser focus locked in? Or are you looking to just be fucking awake? Like, what are you looking for here? Are you looking to drive your head through the fucking wall and feel insane? Like, everyone has their own, like, some people want that, believe it or not, and that's why formulas like this will ultimately feel like nothing to the, you know, stim fiend guy. Just like gorilla mode, you know, to a stim fiend is gonna feel like objectively quite weak. And that's where you would, you know, go to the pre-workouts that have, you know, a little dash of fucking alpha yohimbine in there, have a little hit of isopropyl norepinephrine, have things of that nature that are really going to like redline your fucking CNS and get you going. This stuff though is a more, you know, like benign, straight edge kind of formula. And it's not a bad dose. Like, these are reasonable doses. You'll definitely feel this shit if you're not in absolute pre-workout junkie. So yeah, decent combination, decent dosages, grapefruit extract, bioperine, things that are going to enzymatically inhibit the degradation of certain catecholamines in the body and kind of, you know, enhance the effects of things like caffeine is the reason you would include something like this. That's what I speculate you would include this, why he included this in his formula. Did he design it himself? I don't know for sure, but I, you know, would imagine this is why he included it. And yeah, like overall, what do I think about the formula? Is it the worst thing I've ever seen? No, I've definitely seen fucking worse. However, I definitely think there are, you know, holes in the formula, things that could be, you know, swapped out for things that are more superior, dosages that are sub-efficacious, you know, literal fucking red flags that are like hard to justify, like, you know, something that's more well tolerated digestively. So I'm going to include 1/5 of the efficacious dose in Kre-Alkalyn, you know, like shit like that is stuff that I think is a no-brainer to kind of, you know, swap. But I mean, ultimately, as an entry-level pre, that's a daily driver, is this, you know, reasonable? You're gonna feel it. You know, is it worth the $39.99? You know, I'll leave that up for your interpretation. Personally, like for me, there are some of these vectors of performance I'd want to see, you know, pushed a bit harder, or just basic things that are kind of missing out that presumably were, you know, thought to be better alternatives from the thought process of, oh, it might be more well tolerated on your digestive system. You know, maybe for him personally, he finds this better, but I just don't think certain things, just because they're more well tolerated, you get a bit less paresthesia from a gram of beta-alanine. It's like, well, ultimately, you're not going to get the performance enhancing effects from it then. Just because you feel it less, it doesn't mean that, you know, I don't think it justifies like shorting it. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It's not the worst thing I've seen, but it's definitely not the best pre-workout on the market. Definitely not fucking that. So anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. You know, he put this up for scrutiny. He asked people to basically dismantle it. So here we are fucking dismantling it. And you guys can put your comments down below letting me know what you think too. So all the comments help the algorithm. They're much appreciated. Like, subscribe, check out my blog. MorePlatesMoreDates.com. Follow me on Instagram at MorePlatesMoreDates, Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter, TikTok, Apple Podcasts. If you want to support the channel, you can check out anything I'm associated with in the video description below. Anything that companies I own, companies that sponsor me, you know, affiliate links, codes, etc. Help support the brand. It's much appreciated when you guys use that stuff. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. Talk to you soon.